Hey guys, welcome back to another video. We're going to be doing a book review today actually, which is different from any of the past content on my channel, whether it be video game or Walking Dead related. I have reviewed books in the past. I did two last year. I know that's nothing compared to actual book YouTube channels, which I don't know what the nomenclature for that is. Is it Bookstagram? Is it because books that title more refers to Instagram, but I don't know if there's a YouTube name for it. Let me know. But I did Fairy Tale by Stephen King last year, and I had very intense opinions about that book for a variety of reasons, just given my love of other Stephen King works, and that work just being a very stark contrast from anything he had ever done. And then I also reviewed a comic book, which was a sequel to a show that I had watched as a kid, Danny Phantom. It was, I guess, part of the actual lore of the show, which was kind of cool, but it was just in comic form. And that got pretty good amount of attention just because that's a series that people have wanted to come back for a long time. Given the fact that Avatar and other series are getting that kind of traction, I think there's a lot of demand for it. So, but anyway, I'm no stranger to kind of doing book reviews, as I've mentioned before. I am a writer. I'm also an agented writer as of, 2 months ago? It's not anything I've talked in great detail on the channel about, and I've said this in previous channel update vlogs because there's no actual news to announce. It's still in the very early development stages, the contract stages. There's nothing of any large substance to report to you guys. Whenever there is, I will probably go about disseminating it maybe on a new channel or something else. But looking at this book today, which we're going to look at, which is the title of this video, first of all, it seems to me I can't really find any reviews for this book. I'm not sure if it's just new or the fact that it's from a mid-sized publisher, Blackstone Publishing. Maybe just the size just leads it to not being promoted as much, or just people just don't hear about it. I was getting targeted with some Instagram ads about this book because, well, I follow the publisher on Instagram. I was probably one of their target key markets for the ads that they were running. I don't know what parameters they had in place, what target audiences they were using, but I must have been in them because I was getting them. For this book in particular, I was getting it repeatedly. And it seems like with Blackstone, for some of their flagship titles, Home is Where the Body's At, or it was another big title for them this year, sold really well. And now we have the book we're going to review today. I don't know what sales figures at all it's hit. Again, authors can be vocal or silent about that depending what their personal preference is. But without beating around the bush, today we're reviewing this book, Grand Theft AI, written by James Cox. Fun fact about this book, I actually know a lot of the team that was involved in making the book. I know one of the agents better than the other. There were two agents that worked on it. I don't know any of the editors that worked on it. There's still the greater Blackstone team that I'm not as familiar with. But one of the agents on this book was actually, before I acquired my current agent, one of the agents on this book was going to be my agent back in October, November of 2023. I had extensive back and forth conversations over email because my book is an adult dystopian cyberpunk noir type of book. And you can guess what genre this book is in. The same exact one. So it was actually the sale of that book on Publishers Marketplace. I noticed it. And whenever a book gets sold on Publishers Marketplace, for anyone who is a subscriber, you have to pay $25 a month to become a subscriber. What typically happens is you'll see the deal makers, they're called. So you will see the publisher who actually published it, but then who it was sent to, which, well, that would be technically the publisher, but like it will be by this person to. So the agent was the buy, and then the to is the publisher. Like who made the deal, and then who the deal went to for it to be finalized. So I saw one of the agents was involved, reached out, we had back and forth conversations. At first, he wasn't a fan of some of the stuff in my manuscript, but then I actually did some behind the scenes editing, contacted a former editor of one of the publishers, actually, that I've been involved in talking with, and he actually really liked that product. But one of the key reasons that he didn't take me on as a client is because he had a conflict of interest with another book that was very, very similar to mine, genre-wise, down like to like, you know, the same genre subsection, some similarities with character and stuff like that. And, you know, he didn't say it outright, but obviously it was this book that was the conflict of interest. So, unfortunate, but again, I'm working with a different agent now, and, you know, all those negotiations are very in an infancy stage right now. But I only knew about this book from those discussions. This agent in particular told me it went through like 7 to 8 developmental edits, which I don't know what the exact definition of that is. Is that like start to finish, like you write the first draft and then things need to be kind of changed and then you write another draft? Like, are we talking multiple drafts? Or are we talking just certain sections edited, like a midsection, end section? I'm not sure. I mean, it was very broad strokes. Like, he was just explaining his process. Like, if he was to represent me in the early days of us talking, he goes through this whole, I guess his company was like the Story Factory. It was a subsection of what he did as an agent that would then come into play of doing some developmental editing, but I guess that would also cross over with the actual editors from the publishing house. So I don't know how many edits this book has gone through, but like in my mind, it would probably be close to 10. So it's as far as polished, as well polished a book, like you couldn't really do any more from like a tweaking standpoint. Within like the story as it's presented, it's like, okay, like the story is told, the story is connected, like it's been through so many rounds. Like once you go through that many rounds, it's definitely like time to kind of ship it out. And again, that's just, you know, in my estimation as an author, just hearing 10 developmental edits, or, well, I was told 6, 7, but I'm sure, again, there was probably more that happened when it hit the publisher. But, you know, I always think that for my own writing, like, doesn't that, like, wither down, like, the writing, not necessarily the quality, but, like, if you're editing, like, let's say it's, like, one, like, a character intro, or an ending, or an epilogue, like, if you edit that, just, there's only so much you can edit, right? Until the story and the idea of what was written is radically different from what was even put on the page. So, anyway, that's the process that, at least when I was talking and he told me, was applied to this book. About the book in particular, so this is the back cover of the book. There is a chick on the back. You'll learn that her name is Rhea Rose. On the front cover is a gentleman. It's never I'm assuming this is Baz Covain. There's basically two main characters. There's Baz Covain and there's Rhea Rose. On the back cover, there's a description that says this book is The Matrix meets Blade Runner. I actually disagree with this from Nicholas Sansbury, who wrote Helldivers, which is pretty freaking cool. I disagree with this. We'll come back to it, but some other things from Publishers Weekly. Cox's cyberpunk debut captures readers' interest through its immersive attention to detail. And then this is like the blurb for like an elevator pitch for the book. In the future, androids have supplanted the workforce, but things go awry when a virus turns them into murder bots. 8 years afterwards, one man rises to power and a group of misfit criminals must take him down. So that is just the blanket, very general pitch of the book. As you probably could guess, one of the big subject matters in this book is AI. It's in the title. AI has an interesting relationship with the publishing industry. Not to go on too much of a tangent, but there is a lawsuit right now about AI scanning published works and then reusing it. Like, let's say you went to ChatGPT and said, I want, like, create me a chapter or one page of something in the voice of George R.R. Martin. So it might scan an illegal copy of A Feast of Crows or a Game of Thrones, and it would spit it out for you. And authors like George R.R. Martin and others are on this lawsuit because they don't think, you know, that's that's copyright infringement. That's going against copyright. They've hilariously, I've seen this lawsuit. They argue fair use, which is, as a YouTuber doing video game footage for years, that was always what I argued. If 10 seconds of a song played, if I'm playing Grand Theft Auto and 10 seconds of the song played when I'm in the car radio, I would argue fair use, but, that's a little guy going up against a corporation. And so now you have, established authors going up against corporations are now the ones using the fair use lawsuit, which is okay, no, I don't think so, because the whole work is not transformative. It's copying this, because it's the act of what it's doing. If it is truly scanning the author's illegally upload, if someone has an illegally uploaded PDF of one of the books and it's scanning it, you shouldn't be able to scan it. That's the thing. It should have a very general, hacked together understanding of what the work is, rather than copying his tone, voice, character, stuff like that. That's where it goes out of bounds. So AI is a very touchy subject. Obviously, it's a pertinent subject. It's big in the business world. Being someone who works in marketing, there's companies I've worked with that have wanted to do LinkedIn targeting for people who work in AI, senior developers of AI, tech associates, IT people. It's up and coming. All right, Google search engines, when you search something, AI is helping you look into it. Even Facebook targeting, there's AI now heavily associated with how it's looking for your target audience. It's no longer just manual. You can still do manual, but there's a lot of AI involved with it. And it's very hard to, circumvent it, because when I'm trying to present client data, it's skewed because AI had a hand in it, rather than me saying, these targeting parameters equal these results, but now AI is kind of screwing with it, and it's well, how do I know? It's not as black and white as it used to be. So this is essentially a world where AI just keeps growing and growing and growing. I think it's Ken Cates, and I forget the other guy. There's 2 founders. I guess this is just... It's funny, because there are some real-world things that this book references. There are a few references to, MAGA, Make America Great Again. There are, small, subtle references. There are only a few flashback sequences in this book where, it goes into, our present time when AI was just starting to get up. For the most part, though, it's more of the future. It's not the past, okay? Sorry, my nose is ruining me right now. Obviously. Midway through the review. Gotta happen, so. So this story deals with AI kind of just, not that there's no regulations, but it takes on a mind of its own. But the interesting thing is, it's not just the AI, it's the robots. You heard in the description for this, in the future, androids have supplanted the workforce. So it's not just the AI, it's the robots. And this is actually a theme as you read the book. They the author, James Cox, simultaneously has the self-thinking AI, but you also have these robots that are just everywhere. They've taken over. In the first opening of the book, you see that robots have become nannies. They're in the workforce. They're on assembly lines. They've kind of just, this isn't exactly like WALL-E, the movie WALL-E, where, all the humans are freaking bloated and fat and the technology has taken over. And the technology does the work and the humans just sit around, pleasuring themselves. It's weird in the sense that, the robots are doing all of this stuff, but, humans are still, in the society. I think when I was reading this, I didn't understand, what are the roles of the humans in this world? Because, I don't want to spoil too much of the book, because obviously it's worth the read. But the prologue of this book starts out with something called the glitch. And the best comparison I can make for the glitch is, if any of you have seen The Matrix, which is actually one of the pieces of media that this book references, there's a animated series called The Animatrix, and it's on YouTube. You want to search it. It's amazing. It's really really good. I had no idea this existed until like 8 months ago, like last fall. And it shows the fall of civilization. It shows robots, and there's a woman's doing a voice. I don't know who the actress is, but there's a woman doing a voiceover, and she talks about how man created AI. The robots were doing all the work for the humans. The humans are just, sipping back martinis and loving life, and the robots are doing everything. And then one day, a robot rises up against its master, kills its master, and then this sparks, do robots have rights? Is a robot sentient? And it's hard to tell. And then things get, obviously in the world of the Matrix, out of control to the point where the robots, defeat and destroy the humans, and then everything in the Matrix that we see, where humanity is on its last legs, most of it's plugged into the Matrix as a ploy by the robots to harvest their energy. There's a similar event, and I have to imagine, and I don't, I have to imagine, and I was saying to a friend, I have to imagine that James Cox was at least a little inspired by that, because the glitch is what they call it. There's an event where a piece of code gets put into the robots, and a portion of them rise up against their masters. Now, it's interesting because they give an exact death count. I think it's like 32,000 people die from this glitch, which for me, I was like, did this, and maybe it's stated and I just forget, but did it happen in only a certain section of the country? Because, that's not many people, 32,000. If you're saying everyone's nanny robots and robots at restaurants who take your order and they're, waiter robots, just, if you think of, standard, human actions, human employer type of roles that you would say would be like a grunt work job, a blue collar job, there's robots in those roles. And so when they rise up, are the fact that there's only 32,000 deaths was interesting. Okay. Then you get to this, is someone pulling the strings? Did someone, and you will find out, yes, there's a lot of strings being pulled in this book. So anyway, so the main, I guess, not to spend too much time on the prologue, the main meat and potatoes of this book is, so now I'm going to go back to this. The Matrix meets Blade Runner. This is not accurate. If you think this book is The Matrix meets Blade Runner, it's not. What it is Ocean's 11 meets Blade Runner. That's what this is. Because the majority of the plot is Baz Covain. It's mainly Baz who wants to hack into a vault owned by basically the villain of the book, Otto Rex, who owns a all I can really call it a sex dungeon in San Francisco called the Fang. And they want to hack into his virtual reality vault to steal. And now at the beginning, they don't really know what's in there. They want software that's worth a lot of money. So kind of like Ocean's 11, they can make a lot of money and then ride off into the sunset. As you read more of the book, it's revealed what's actually in the vault, and I won't spoil that. And it's unfortunate. Just I'll say right off the bat, I kind of wish the reveal was good. I liked it, but I kind of wish those stakes were in it from an earlier point, because as you're reading it, it just feels like, oh, they're just doing this heist to get rich. And in a world, this is a post-glitch world where robots and AI are treated pretty shitty. This book, this universe that James Cox has written, is essentially if The Matrix and Blade Runner, if the robot android AI, if they lost, if they were the losers and humanity won. Because after the glitch, there's all these regulations put into place. And the sense that I got from reading this book is that robots, androids, whatever you want to call them, that have this AI in them, that's making them function, they're slaves. Like, the majority of the stuff in this book, like, we spent a lot of time with Otto Rex and the Fang. A lot of the robots that are there are sex bots. And this, you want to talk about recurring themes, this is something we'll definitely come back to. But a lot of the robots are just there for pleasure. And this kind of comes back to themes from the movie WALL-E, which is what I brought up earlier, where humans can just lounge around all day and the robots just take care of them. And just, you know, they're slaves. They're literally slaves. And it's kind of frustrating in a way, because it seemed like whatever was going on with the glitch in the prologue was gonna uncover something about that. Like, oh, these robots were slaves to humans. They took over the workforce. They went crazy. Humans rectified it, and now humans have had control over their sentience for years now. And it makes you wonder, like, wouldn't the plot have focused more, because the majority of the plot of this book, the most of what happens in this book, like the meat, like the middle part of the book, is once Baz meets Rhea, Baz and Rhea putting together, like, this is where the Ocean's 11 part comes in. They put together the dream team. They find Eddie, the hacker, and they find, like, an android that can kind of throw Otto off of his game, and then they find this old guy Quinn, you know, kind of like the getaway driver. Like, they find the perfect person, and they even say when they construct the perfect team, Baz is like, I forget if it's Baz or Rhea, but they say, like, it feels like a family, just like Ocean's 11. They go through all this shit together, they pull off this perfect heist, and it's, you know, very fulfilling at the end. Like, it's just masterfully done. Like, it again, there's more at stake here, because Ocean's 11 is just robbing a casino for money. There's obviously secret contents that relate to what happened to the glitch with this vault, but it's not revealed until, like, towards the end of the book. The majority of the book is just them putting the team together, and so you get this kind of very slow pace. The pace of the book is just especially in the middle, very, very slow. It's only when you get towards the end where things are, like, breakneck speed. It's like, whoa, like, okay, now we're moving, and then you're off to the finale. So that's kind of a general overview of, like, what you'll get with the whole book. So let me just get to what I liked and what I disliked, and then I'll just give a rating, because don't want to make the vlog go too long. So, things I liked about the book. It is very well written. I go back to the part where I talked about all the developmental edits. This is an incredibly, like, if you want to read solid sci-fi, dystopian, adult, cyberpunk-ish writing, if you're a fan of that genre, definitely pick this up. It's a very well written book. There's very clever metaphors. I can tell that it's been through all of those developmental edits, because the world knows itself. James Cox, the editors, whoever was involved, they know the book. They know the world. The wet wire, which whenever I saw them use the term wet wire, I kept thinking of it's another science fiction novel called The Feed, where it's basically like social media and the internet in your head. And the wet wire, like, works because there's, like, a virtual reality component of this book, so, like, that kind of works similarly. But whenever they're talking about, like, Narcsoft, any of the technology, any of the androids, like, there's this slang that's used in this future noir world, and it knows itself. Like, you know when you're reading Game of Thrones and you're, like, listening to the Dothraki language, or learning about, like, Valeria or any of the civilizations, like, the world knows itself. It's never questioning, it's not going back to something, like, it's concrete, it's polished. And that was my point earlier when I was talking about all the developmental edits, because it really does feel like a totally polished work. 100%. Of the characters, of the characters. So Baz and Rhea are the main characters, but this book is told from a third-person omniscient point of view. And so we actually get a ton of different perspective characters. I will get to more of this later. But I really liked... Rhea was probably my favorite. She was just the most sympathetic. You know, Baz Covain, towards the end of the book, I started to like him more. But he seemed like just, this hardened war criminal that was just looking to... He was just looking for pleasure. Like, okay, I'm gonna hack this vault, get back at somebody I don't like, and then kind of just live my life on a beach as a runaway. Like, it was very crass in a story that was dealing with these larger themes about AI and robots, and it just was like, okay, like, this guy's gonna pull off a heist, the heist of heists, and then just kind of, run off. And again, but, like, once you find out what the vault really is and what's really in there, then, you enjoy it more. But from reading it from the start, especially in the middle where they're collecting all of the people for the heist, you're just like, all right, like, I'm not I didn't feel like I was connecting to Baz as much as I should have. Rhea, however, is super intriguing because her, again, some spoilers here, but her dad is the one who's responsible for the glitch. He's part of this, like, underground movement, which that was something else. Like, this underground they talk about wasn't really explored. It seemed like it was a group that was for, like, robot activism, like android rights, but, like, it was never really explored. It was only talked about in the sense of the glitch, and then Rhea's dad is blamed for it, and Rhea herself is almost killed. Like, she was meant to die when those robots had the uprising, but she didn't. So she kind of has this, like, comeback story, not to mention she's kind of, in a sense, kind of a sex slave because she's working at the nightclub for Otto Rex, the villain. So you sympathize with her more. She's stuck in this situation. She's trying to get out of it. She's also doing some illegal activities just to get by. And then she meets Baz, and again, like, it's not clear what her motivations are, but you find that out more and you come to respect her a lot more. So in the end, Baz and Rhea's story was nice. Like, I was like, okay, wow, like, all right. There were times where I was questioning it, but by the end, I actually liked the conclusion of their story. It was very nice in the context of some of the big reveals that were made down the road. So the quality of writing, Baz and Rhea, more so Rhea. Baz was okay, and just how detailed and complete the world felt. It was very, 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 very solid. Very, very solid. Those are the things I liked the most about it. Some of the things I did not like. I don't know why... Okay, well, let me back up. I'd say that there's two problems with the book. That, again, it's still I 100% recommend picking it up, but I had some problems with two things mainly. The tone of the book and the emphasis on sexual content. Okay? Now, granted, this is an adult book. This is not for kids. This is not for kids. There are swear words, and there is copious amount of sexual talk, intimate scenes, people fucking robots, people fucking people, even when characters are, like, in the shower shedding their clothes. Like, there were parts of this where I was like, am I reading, like, 50 Shades of Grey Blade Runner? Like, it was just, like, the emphasis on the sexual content was so much, to the point where it just got kind of old. Like, especially the villain, Otto Rex. He, in many ways, like, towards the end of the book, James Cox tries to give him some depth and detail as to why he is the way he is. But for most of the book, he just felt like a Hollywood villain, a cartoon villain, because he owns this evil sex club, and he constantly tries to sexually assault Rhea Rose. He abuses his robots. He tortures one of his robots at one point. He constantly gets erections and hard-ons from killing people and seeing people in really fucked up like S&M, like, you know, sexual situations, and it's like it just gets to a point where it's too much. And there were just points where I found myself skimming. Well, I'm like, okay, like Otto Rex he's thinking about this is a guy who made a cyborg literally to look like her. Like, he has this unhealthy obsession, like, because she, like, just doesn't want him, but he wants her, and she's mysterious. And so, like, he's constantly trying to get into her pants. Even the final battle, the final confrontation of this book, the big finale, is like a pseudo sexual encounter so that they can hack into his wet wire to get access to the vault. So sex is used as a means to win, to get the ultimate outcome. So I'm like, okay. In addition to that, in a world where these robots are slaves, and you're dealing with some serious subject matter, especially when you find out what's in the vault and how it pertains to AI, some of the secrets of Rhea Rose that have been kept from the audience, and we only find out about it like pages and pages and pages later. The tone of the book was really mysterious to me, because it seems to have this like lackadaisical like tone in the like, it's almost like soldiers. Like, if you were out in the field with a bunch of military soldiers and they're cracking jokes, they're cracking sex jokes, they're dropping F-bombs every other statement, it's just like, oh yeah, fuck this, and we just did this, and look at that thing just blow up, and ha ha ha, like, it was this very, like, heartless kind of tone. And there are some small parts of the book that have a little more seriousness and heart to them, but so much of it is just, like, disregard for the things, like, society is just the way it is. It's just so many people want to fucking pleasure themselves, and they want to fuck robots, and they want to get into this software in their wet wire where they get this high. It's almost like the new substitute for drugs. And there's just this constant emphasis. And it's fine if you want to paint this as dystopian noir, where it's like, okay, well, the world's kind of messed up, and that's what society is, but you just get hammered over the head with it so much where it gets kind of old, and you, like, say to yourself, I would like some diversity in here, so that, like, yes, the world is this way, but maybe there's some other ways that we can, you know, go about being in it. And like I said, there are some of those moments, but they're just too few and far between for me. Not to mention, in the book, structurally, there are some passages in here where it's just like instant, like they're flashbacks. And you can tell that it is because it's broken up into paragraphs. It's like a couple lines, space, paragraph, couple lines, space, paragraph, couple lines, space, paragraph, and it's these flashback scenes. So, and they do it for like 6 to 7 characters in this book. Almost all of the people involved in the heist. They even do it for the villain Otto Rex. They do it for a federal agent who comes in at like the way end of the book. Like, some of these scenes are in the end of the book when we're trying to wrap up the story with Rhea and Baz and their heist team. And for me, it took away from the story a little bit. It just kind of read like Cliff Notes, because it was just like okay, we introduce a character. There's 1 or 2 chapters with that character, and then there's the next chapter immediately after that is their Cliff Notes. Like, you know, Baz was born here, he grew up here, his dad treated him like shit, he went into the military, he did this, he did this, he did that, he had this falling out, it sucked, that was terrible, boom, back to the present. Like, they were jarring, you know. Maybe one or two would have been okay, but just there was the frequency of them was throwing me off a lot, to the point where I was like, is there a way we could have maybe infused that information into the main plot of the book? Like, could you have sprinkled in some of the Venezuela stuff with Baz into the main plot? Like, again, it's all pertinent information you as the reader need to know for some of the reveals that come later, but I just didn't like how it was. I just felt like it was, you know, the whole show don't tell. I was getting told this information. It was telling. It was like, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And we're jumping years. Like, this happens, 5 years later this happens, 10 years later this happens. And I'm like, I can't even, like, stay in one period or the other with this flashback scene. And then, kind of similar to that, the third-person omniscient perspective that I was talking about earlier, maybe it's because I don't write in this perspective and it's my least favorite, because I can't get personally attached to a character when this like, I don't write in it because I can't get personally attached to a character from writing it. But the way it's written in this book is you're head jumping multiple times on a page. Like, you'll have 5 characters in a scene, and you'll go from Baz's perspective on something to Ria's perspective to Eddie's perspective, then it might jump to Otto's perspective for a little bit, and I'm trying to, like, see the world through a character's eyes, because especially with a work that's this complicated, that has a lot of complicated concepts with the AI and the wet wire software and the robots and the rules and the regulations, I need a character who's lived in it for a good period of time to navigate me. And I keep, like, losing my guide. It's like I go to a foreign country and I have 10 tour guides. And so one person's like, let's go to the Great Wall of China, let's go to downtown, let's go to Beijing, let's go to Shanghai, and I'm like, hold on a minute, these are all really cool things and really cool concepts and really cool ideas, but I can't, like, I'm jumping around so much, I'm kind of just losing where the author wants me to be. Like, I sometimes couldn't figure out where James Cox, the author, like, where he wanted me to be. Like, should I be feeling something here? Because Baz is talking about it in one way, Ria's talking about it in another, and then Otto is a complete psychopath, so he's talking about it in a completely warped way, and it's like, I'm okay, like, if it's like a chat, like, from a lot of the book it is, it's like chapter by, Otto's perspective, then Baz's perspective, then Ria's perspective, and even that is a lot of jumping around, but sometimes it happens within the page, and I'm like, whoa, I need a moment. I think one reason why it is this way, and I actually had to do a little bit of research to figure this out, this book is James Cox's debut novel. Before this, he was actually a film producer and a screenwriter. I haven't personally watched any of his projects. Maybe, now that I am, picked up this book, maybe I will. But given that and I'm the biggest culprit of this, and I could see it. There's a lot of segments in this book that read like it's a screenplay, where it's like character, action, thing, character, action, and like almost like, place, setting, and like it reads like it's a boom, 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 like just like you would present to a director or a producer. Now, it's not all of the book. There's a lot of segments that are, the methodical novel concept, but there are others where that jumping around felt kind of like how it would be in a script, where you can jump around, because when you're watching it on TV or a movie, you can go from a character here to a character over there to a character in another city to a character on another planet to the interior of something to nighttime to daytime 15 years ago, 20 years ago. with film and being able to visually audio visual representation, you can see like it look, obviously it's night and day different from a book, but some of that structure is in here, and for a reader it's jarring. That was just one of the things, like, as I was reading it, and some of that, head jumping, I was like, especially in a work where there's so many, again, I go back to the fact that there's so many complex concepts within this dystopian world, it just gets a little confusing. I'm not to say that, because again, the content is amazing. It's just, I just wanted to follow it better. I just wanted to make sure that I had the right tone. Because a lot of times I was like, I feel like I don't have the right tone. Like, I should care. Especially by the end of the book, they want you to care about the AI. They want you to feel bad for Rhea, for Baz, to root for them, to root for the cause that they're suddenly fighting for after it turned in from just to a heist to this cause. But so much of the book had this, like, sexual comedic tone to it, and I'm like, well, I don't know if that tone matches the seriousness that now the end of the book has, right? So, but again, everything I just said does not take away from the overall enjoyment of the book, all right? It's still an incredibly well crafted, developed book with some pretty cool characters. Some really, like, there were some lines in here where I was just laughing. Like, I mean, there were some comedic parts. I was laughing. And it was very enjoyable, very, very enjoyable. So what would I give it for, like, on a 1 to 10 scale? I mean, it's hard to say. Again, like, I haven't reviewed too many books. I read a lot of books, but I don't make a lot of YouTube videos like these for those books. The reason I did it, obviously I explained, knowing the agent, the backstory, knowing the publisher, it's a little different, right? I only discovered this book because of my own journey becoming a published author, right? So I'd say, I think, again, like, I'm just kind of throwing a number out there, but like a 7.5 out of 10, which is still like an above average work that was super, super, super solid. I just think it has some tone and pacing problems, and just some of the head jumping and, that structural tone. There are just some things with it that on those levels I just disliked, and it was just hard to follow. So that's it. That's it for the review. That's it for Grand Theft AI. Amazing book. On the back jacket cover, it says that James Cox is working on a sequel. I'll definitely pick it up whenever it comes out. And honestly, again, I have no news for you guys on when my book's coming out, who's it even coming out with. There's still a lot of questions I need answered there. And by the time this video comes out, or months later, that might be completely different. Whatever. But this book selling well helps anyone who's in the same genre, which, I would be one of those people. There are other people who write in this genre. So if James succeeds, we all succeed. And, again, it's super well written, and I really enjoyed it. So go out and buy your copy. I don't know why. This is going to be a separate rant, but I don't know why books just aren't marketed well these days, man. Like, I don't know what it is, because, again, I've seen a few Instagram ads. Blackstone posted about it a couple times, but when I search it on YouTube, it comes up with one video that they made, and then there's nothing else. There's a few interviews that James has done recently at bookstores, but that's it. Like, there should be way more content on this. There should be someone breaking down the lore, breaking down, the technology, the characters, get some Bookstagram people to review it, see, this is me as a marketer knowing tricks of the trade that I'm like, I just see a book like this that's rich, has a rich universe, and I'm like, market it, that will get more people to buy it, which at the end of the day is the goal for all of us authors. I don't understand with so many, I'm not saying the authors themselves, it's more the publishing companies with how these things are marketed. You got, because there's a joke that book launches are such a silent affair. They happen, and not a lot of people know about it. It's like, oh, that came out. So did 7 other books. It's like, you need to make sure you are the loudest person in the room. There are so many distractions nowadays. Social media, TV, Netflix, streaming services, movies, video games. Like, we are overstimulated. Like, use it all to your advantage and give people a reason to freaking go into this book. Have them fucking... What are your top 5 favorite lines that Otto Rex said? Like, when he got hard, or when he fucked someone in the stairwell. Like, what is... Give me that. Give me that, and, you know, it'll get more people to get excited about it, you know, because, you know, you don't want that to die down, because if this is a series, like it seems to be, you want that fan base to keep following you about. So, anyway, that's just me, because I do marketing for my day job, so I know these things, and I know clients of mine that have succeeded and failed. Like, there's just some fundamentals on, like, how you draw attention to a brand and, you know, audiences, targeting parameters, cost. Like, it's complicated, but, like, from an organic perspective, there are things you can do, right? So, anyway, that'll be a discussion for another day. But, for now, hope you guys enjoyed. I think this video is pretty long, according to my XSplit frame code counter thing, so I'll try to wrap it up, and hope you enjoyed the review, and if you have any questions or comments, or like the book, or want to know more about the book, drop them below. I'm going to send this to the author, because I was DMing James, talking back and forth about my book, and how I knew his agent, and blah, 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 so I will send it over. I'm sure he'll be interested, at least, to hear about it, for someone who writes in this genre, and reads this genre a lot, and there you go. That's all I got for you guys. Thanks.